Welcome to The Explainer. Today we're going to dive deep into the hidden vulnerabilities of artificial intelligence. We're pulling back the curtain on a totally new kind of cybersecurity battle, one where hackers are learning to speak AI's own language to turn it against itself.
Okay, so take a look at this. To you and me, it's a teapot, right? Obvious. But to a super sophisticated AI, all it took was changing one single, almost invisible pixel to make it think it was looking at a joystick. No joke. And this isn't some random glitch. This was a deliberate manipulation.
And that really gets to the heart of what we're talking about today. How can these incredibly powerful AI systems, the ones that are driving our cars and diagnosing diseases, also be so fragile that you can trick them this easily?
And believe me, this isn't a one-off. Researchers 3D printed this, innocent-looking turtle. But its texture, its pattern, was specifically engineered to fool Google's object detection AI. The AI was convinced it was a rifle, no matter which way you turned it. This points to a fundamental vulnerability, and to really get how it works, we have to look back at a classic hacker's trick.
That's right, we're actually winding the clock back a bit. Because to understand the future of AI security, you first have to understand a foundational attack from cybersecurity history.
Let's talk about something called SQL injection. Now, for decades, this has been a favorite tool for hackers. The basic idea is you trick a database by sending it a secret command that's disguised as totally normal data, like, say, a username.
Here's a perfect example. A normal input is just asking the database for a specific user. Simple enough, but look at the malicious one. The attacker searches for administrator, but then adds two little dashes at the end. In the SQL language, those dashes mean ignore everything that comes after this. It's a comment. So the part of the code that checks for a password, the database just completely ignores it. And boom, just like that, they're in.
There's this famous webcomic that just captures the idea perfectly. Smuggling a destructive command inside what looks like completely harmless data. This whole principle of tricking a system by speaking its native language is the key to, everything we're about to see.
So how does this all connect back to AI? Well, we're taking that exact same philosophy, that Bobby Tables logic, and we're just applying it to a much newer, much more complex target, machine learning models.
So instead of sneaky SQL commands, attackers are now crafting these malicious inputs for the AI. And these aren't just random. They're incredibly cleverly designed queries, like that single pixel on the teapot or the texture on the turtle. They're designed to poke and prod the AI to see how it reacts and ultimately to either learn its secrets or make it fail in some spectacular way.
Now, hackers usually come at this from two angles. In a white box attack, they've got the whole blueprint, full access to the AI's code. But in a black box attack, they're basically flying blind. All they can do is send inputs and see what comes out, just like a regular user. And what's crazy is that attacks can work in both scenarios.
These attacks, whether they're white box or black box, they usually fall into three main categories, and each one has a very different and pretty dangerous goal.
First up, you've got evasion. This is the most direct kind of attack. You can think of it like creating a digital disguise for your data. The goal is to craft an input that a fully trained AI will just get wrong. Like making a self-driving car miss a stop sign, or getting a spam email to slip right past a filter.
And this stuff is not theoretical. Researchers put a tiny 2-inch strip of electrical tape on a 35-mile-per-hour speed limit sign. To you or me driving by, you wouldn't even notice it. But a Tesla's vision system read it as 85, and the car tried to accelerate. A tiny, tiny change with a potentially huge consequence.
The second type of attack is way more insidious. It's called data poisoning. In this case, the attacker doesn't just trick a trained AI, they actually corrupt the data it's learning from in the first place. It's like secretly teaching the AI all the wrong things from the very beginning, building this hidden backdoor right into the model's brain that they can trigger later.
And finally, there's model extraction. This is straight-up digital espionage. By asking a model enough questions and analyzing its answers, an attacker can basically reverse engineer a proprietary, multi-million-dollar AI. They can steal the company's secret sauce just by being a very persistent user.
So yeah, these systems are clearly vulnerable, but the story doesn't end there. All of this has kicked off this fascinating, really high-stakes arms race between the people attacking AI and the people trying to defend it.
And defending AI, it's not about finding one single silver bullet. It's this continuous, systematic process of trying to anticipate threats, find the weak spots, and build in resilience right from the ground up.
Security experts have this structured cycle they follow. First, they model the threat. They basically try to think like a hacker. Then, they simulate attacks to find the weak spots. After that, they figure out how bad the damage could be. And finally, they design and deploy defenses. And then, the whole cycle starts over again.
Now, one of the most powerful defenses to come out of this arms race is something called adversarial training. It's basically like giving the AI a vaccine. You don't just show it normal, clean data, you intentionally train it on the exact kinds of tricks that are designed to fool it, teaching it to recognize and resist these malicious inputs.
The defenses are getting even smarter too. Researchers are now developing methods that actually turn the tables on the attacker. There's this new defense, nicknamed AAA, and what it does is it subtly tweaks the AI's output scores. For a normal person, the answer is the same. But for an attacker's algorithm, it sends them on a total wild goose chase, completely derailing their attempt to find a weakness. It's brilliant.
Okay, so let's zoom out. We've seen the attacks, we've seen the defenses, but what's the big picture here? Why does understanding all this stuff about attacking AI actually matter to all of us?
Because this is really not just some academic exercise. The stakes are incredibly high. We're talking about self-driving cars, we're talking about medical AIs making diagnoses, security systems, the very information we see online. As AI gets woven deeper and deeper into these critical systems, the consequences of these vulnerabilities really start to affect our safety, our privacy, and even our trust in technology itself.
So at the end of the day, the goal isn't just to build more powerful AI. It's to build AI that is robust, that's resilient, and that's actually trustworthy. And that really leaves us with a final and pretty critical question. As these incredibly complex systems become more and more invisible, just woven into the fabric of our daily lives, how do we make sure we can actually trust what we can no longer see?